Carla, and welcome back to the studio. And thank you for stopping by to watch my episode of Throwback Thursday, which is actually being posted on Friday morning. Um, it's been a crazy work week, and unfortunately, I just couldn't get this out, in time for Thursday early morning. So bear with me for just a second. A couple of things. I just want to make sure that I'm level here. A lot of times when I set this up, I unfortunately can't level this because every time before I go live, wants me to change my orientation from the way I have it set up. So I always have to kind of make sure everything is kind of level and hopefully everything's straight and everything's good. So again, thank you for stopping by. So for the month of December, now typically, let me back this up a little bit. So typically, if you're new here, um, on Thursdays, I do Throwback Thursdays. And what Throwback Thursdays are, I pull out my retired stash of Stampin' Up product and I create two projects with it. So it could either be a standalone stamp set, it could be a stamp and die or stamp and punch bundle, or it could be a whole suite of product. For this one, so for the month of December, I'm doing something a little bit different. So when our holiday mini catalog came out in September. And also, we had our September online exclusive items. All of that was like fall and Christmas themed stuff. So, one of my goals, a lot of the product that I got, my goal is that before the end of the year, I actually use as much of it as possible. So then that way, at least when I bought it, I actually put ink to the stamps, which in a lot of cases when it came to Throwback Thursday, I was pulling out stamps that never ever saw ink touch it until that point. So what I'm doing in the month of December is current product. I am actually going to bring that in for my Throwback Thursdays, again, just for this month, and at the very, very, very beginning of January. And instead of creating two projects, I'm going to create three projects. So it's almost like I'm doing a Friday night kind of live, which basically is pre-recorded. There's like a little hair flying. Um, which at the same point, this is being recorded on Friday morning, December 5th. So tonight at 7 p.m., I will have a video. Now, wait a minute. Let me back this up. That is my goal, that at 7 p.m., there is going to be what I call a kinda live that will post. I will be using the Modern Christmas suite of products. So just it's the suite that was in the online exclusives in September, and it's got the black and white and the gold foil in it. So that video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pre-recording that and scheduling it to post at 7 p.m. here on the channel. I'm doing that. I'm doing it that way tonight because I do have a prior commitment to go to that just happens to be at 7 p.m. But I still want to be able to give you. This thing is bouncing a little bit. Let me bring it up just a tiny bit. Um, so my goal, so I still want to be able to give you something, and that's what I'm going to do. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to be working on my projects for tonight. I think I would say that the projects that I'm making for this video are pretty simple cards. I mean, there's a little wow factor to one of them. But for the most part, yeah, that is my plan for today. You're going to see two videos. This one should have been yesterday. However, it didn't happen, but it's happening now. So for this video, what I'm going to be using is the Pine Tree Trimmings bundle. So it's a photopolymer stamp set. You got some images of you got two trees. You got a tree shape with stars, you got some ornaments, some cool greetings, and then you have the little gifts in here. Now with the dies, it's just a little tiny packaging. You have your die for your Christmas tree, a star, for some garland, a little bow, and then you got these two dies here that will die cut your gifts as well. So the projects, like I said, are pretty simple projects. So let me kind of get some things out of my way here. And let me bring in what it is that I'm going to be using for my first card. Okay, so my first card, the inspiration of this kind of came from a card that I did a couple of years ago. I'm trying to think if whether or not there was an actual video done with it. There may have been, but I remembered the color combination and thought, why not bring it out for this particular card and with this bundle. So for my card base, I have a piece of basic beige. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of the Season of Elegance Specialty Designer Series paper that measures 5.25 by 4. This is the paper right here. So on one side, you have your color with some gold, and then on the other side, you kind of like have this painted look effect on the other side. In this paper, the colors in here are Basic Beige, Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Gray Granite, Lost Lagoon, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, Real Red, and then the gold foiling. This came out in our last holiday mini catalog last year, and it's actually carried over, and you will find that in our annual catalog. Okay, so but I'm not going to use the side with the gold. I'm going to be adding some gold elements to my card, and this would just be a little bit too busy, and you may not see those the embellishments that I'm going to use. Then out of a scrap piece of Night of Navy, I die cut one of the trees. Did the same thing out of basic white. And then the one out of Crumb Cake. Now, this card's being done first, but in the third card, this tree was actually die cut out of a piece of Crumb Cake cardstock that's part of that third card that we're going to do. So if you do that card first, um, keep this piece because we're not going to waste anything. We're going to use it on this one. So you may want to die cut this first if this is the first card you want to do. Okay, so for my card base, let's go ahead and let's fold and burnish this. And where's my bone folder? Okay, and then I'm going to take my designer series paper, and let's get some adhesive here. And we'll put this on our card front, like so. And then I'm going to bring in one of my greetings. And this one I want Sending Christmas Wishes. And let's get that one. That one's right here. And let me get a block. And then I'm going to stamp this in Night of Navy ink. And because it's photopolymer and I want a nice crisp stamped image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat. And I'm going to stamp this right down here in the middle like so. So this card's definitely just a very simple, easy card. Okay, and then, let's see, then I'm going to take my trees here. So I got my Crumb Cake one. I'm going to add some adhesive to the back. I'm going to do the same thing with the navy one. Okay, set that aside. All right, so now I'm going to take these two trees and I'm going to place them. Just want to make sure my card's kind of straight. Place it down. I'm not going to press them down quite yet. And I'll put this one right up here. And then this one is going to set right in the middle, but this one's going to be popped up. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Dimensionals. Add some there. Okay, and then we're going to take this and we'll add this. Let's see, go up a little bit with it. Like so. Make sure that looks straight. Okay, then I'm going to bring in some linen thread. And I'm going to do just like a single-stranded bow. So I want kind of like a longer piece because I do want some longer tails on this. So cut a piece. And let's tie the bow. Okay, let's see. We want somewhat bigger loops, but not too big. I think that'll work. So let me get a glue dot. Get my bow. And then I'm going to kind of wrap this glue dot around itself on the back since it is bigger than the knot on my bow. And then we are going to trim our tails a little bit. I do want them to be longer, so that's good. Okay, now I'm going to kind of take these and kind of tuck it under just for a moment because this next part I want them to kind of be out of my way. So I'm going to bring in the gold shaker stars. Now with the bundle that I'm using, it's just the bundle. You got the set of dies and the stamp set. But also in the offering of in the online exclusives for September, there were 2 more items that were in there that actually coordinate with this, but this wasn't considered part as like a suite, just the bundle. So one of the other things that's part of this, there's the tree shaker domes. We're going to use this on our last card. So you get, what is it? You get 10 in a package. So you do have adhesive on both sides of it. And then there's also the gold shaker stars. So these have your solid gold stars, and then you have some other stars that kind of like have where they're open in the middle. So it's kind of like this outline of a star. There's different sizes of the stars in here. So you get quite, as you can see, you get quite a bit in the package. Now what I want to do is I'm going to use like my solid ones. I'm going to dump a few into the lid. I'm going to bring in my liquid glue and I'm going to add just little drops of glue. I don't want too much. Let's see, oops, I ended up putting drop of glue there, so we're just going to add a bunch. We're going to just make our tree sparkle a little bit here with our gold stars. So I'm just going to add some drops there, and then I'm going to bring in my take your pick tool. Actually, let me use this one. Okay, and then I'm going to take my little pick out. I'm going to use this to kind of push all of my, you know, to remove the stars off of my the putty end of my take your pick tool. Okay, let's get another. I'm going to put kind of like some smaller ones up near the top. Actually, I'm going to scatter them, actually. Whoops, don't tip over. And I'm not worried about these, you know, being straight or anything like that. Just want them in different directions. They're just scattered on top of my tree. Let's see, we'll add this one down here. And when you add the glue, you don't want a lot of glue because some of these spots here got a little bit of glue oozing out from underneath it. But what I want to avoid doing is having glue get on the actual sequin. Let's see, what else we got here? I know we got some different sizes. Let's put this one right here. Right, and then let's see what else we got. We got another. I'll put this one down here. Now there are, like I said, there's some of them where you got open stars. Yeah, the problem with those, with the glue, it's a matter how do you get them to stay down without, you know, there being glue oozing out. Okay, and then we need one more. Let's see. Oh, nope, we need two more. Need one more. One more, one more. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to pick these up because we don't need these again until our last card. We are going to make a shaker card and use those the shaker domes and these. I do want to close this though. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there is the first card. I really liked the combination of the Crumb Cake White and Night of Navy. And so instead of using, like, say, Crumb Cake for my base, I went with Basic Beige. The last card that I'm doing, I am using a panel of Crumb Cake, so that's why I elected to go with another neutral color. So really love how this one came out. Very simple and just very pretty. So there is our first card. Okay, so now our second card, we're gonna move away from like our kind of like our neutral colors, and we're gonna use a little bit of like brighter, cheerier looking colors. So let me get all my little pieces out. Okay, so for this one, wow, things kind of fill up over here really, really quick. Let me close this up. Okay, so for this card, my card base is Pool Party, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic white. This measures 2.5 by 5/8. This is going to be for our greeting. Ahead of time, out of a scrap piece of lemon lime twist, I stamped, there's a couple of tree images that are in this set. So I went with this one right here. I stamped 2 in lemon lime twist ink on lemon lime twist cardstock and then die cut them out. And then I did the same thing on a scrap piece of Granny Apple Green. Granny Apple Green stamped on Granny Apple Green cardstock. And then for my garland pieces here, there is a die for this. This die right here. And I will be trimming like 2 of these down. So I die cut 3 of these out of a scrap piece of Poppy Parade cardstock. So nice bright cheery colors on this one. So I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my Pierce mat, and let me clean off this stamp and bring in the greeting I'm going to use for this one. So for this one, I am going to be using Oh Christmas Tree. Let's take this off. Put the Oh Christmas Tree, and we'll put that on our block. My blocks seriously need to be washed again. All right, so I'm going to bring in my greeting, and for this one, I am going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So the Memento ink does not come in this type of packaging. It is a felt pad, but this is our white Stampin', our craft Stampin' pad. Now, with this, you get a white re-inker, and then you get a stamp case with the foam in it, of course, that's uninked. And so since it's uninked, I took my Memento Tuxedo Black re-inker and I inked up my felt pad. And I find that it does, this black, it does stamp a lot darker and crisper when it's on the foam pad than it is on the felt pad. Kind of like the way the Stays On Jet Black is. However, this you can get the ink off of your stamps, especially your photopolymer. If you use Stays On with your photopolymers, you are not going to get that ink off there. Just going to say that right now, and you don't really want to use your Stays On cleaner on this because, well, one, it could end up damaging the photopolymer, but also when you go to clean it, you're just going to smear the black on there, and then your photopolymer stamp is not going to be see-through anymore. So just like a little tip for you on that. So again, if you want a nice crisp black, add your Memento Tuxedo Black re-inker to an uninked foam white craft pad. Okay, so let's put these things aside, and then let's bring in, well, we need another stamp. So that same tree that I used to stamp those other trees and I die cut, I'm going to pull this out again, and we're going to stamp, let's see, this just fits on here. So let's bring this back in. Okay, and I'm going to pull in my Pool Party ink. And we're going to stamp these trees about 3 times in the background. So let's start off with right in the middle. Let's see right there. And then I'm going to stamp this twice more. Now I'm not worried about that I'm overlapping a little bit because that part will be covered up by those other trees that I have die cut. Okay, so we got that. All right, so let me set that aside. On my Oh Christmas Tree greeting piece, let me get my, there they are, my dimensionals. Now what I want to do is on the end, on the left end, this is where I want to add 2 dimensionals. The other end is going to layer over top of the tree. So since the tree, this end is going to be on top of the one that's going to be popped up, I want to, I just want to add regular adhesive on that. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet, and I'm going to bring in my Granny Apple Green Tree, and I want my tweezers. These tweezers are part of the the Embossing Editions toolkit, and they work really great, so I'm going to use this to hold this. And then I want a little bit of glue, and I'm just going to add a little drop. You don't need a lot. And then I want to add my whoops, don't shift on me. I'm going to add my garland like so. Kind of hold that down for a little bit so that way it sticks. Okay, and then my next one, I'm going to trim this one down. I don't want those scissors. I want this one. So I want 1, 2, 3. I want 5. So I'm going to trim off 2 of these. So get my tweezers again. Add a drop of glue. Okay, and then this one is going to lay like so. Gotta hold it down. This the glue that I have in that little fine tip glue bottle, that's the Tombow multi-purpose glue that we sell. This glue has a latex in it, so you don't need much at all, and it sticks really, really well. Yeah, so that's not going to go nowhere. Okay, so then on my last one, I only want 3, so I'm going to trim this one as well. Okay. And a little drop. Okay, and then this one's going to go right up here. Like so. So very, very simple decoration on that. Okay, so then this piece, let me close up my glue really quick. Okay, so then, now if you wanted to on this, there are the ornaments, and the set of, well actually the set of dies does not die cut any of those little tiny ornaments, but if you like to fussy cut, you can do that. They're very tiny. But yeah, those could end, you could take those and you can stamp them on your tree. Okay, so now this is going to be popped up. So let me add my dimensionals to the back of this. Okay, let me set that aside. Then I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of these trees. Okay, let's get our card base in here. And I'm going to move this out of the way. I see that I'm all crooked. I'm not even looking at the screen. Okay, so these are going to be placed right in between, like so. And again, I'm not worried that these are overlapping. Put those there like so. They look straight, they're not leaning. Okay, we'll press those down. Take off our our dimensional backings off our Granny Apple Green tree. And we'll place this right in the middle like so. Move that up. Move it up just a little bit. Like so. Okay. Then we're going to take our greeting piece. I'm going to add a little bit of seal on the end of my greeting piece. This is the part that's going to stick on top of my tree. And then we're going to place this right about here, like so. And then we're going to embellish this too with some of those gold stars. So let me dump a few in my lid. Now this one, instead of using the different sized stars, I'm going to just go with the larger ones. So let me get my glue again. And we'll add a little drop. Like so. And now let's get our putty ends. And pick these up and just place a few on here. And one more. There we go. Got one little itty bitty 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 tiny star. Okay, let's dump that back in there. Let's kind of set that aside. All right, so there is our second card. Again, a very simple layout, fairly quick to put together. So if you wanted to do this as your Christmas cards, you know, you can do like an assembly line, you know, do all your stamping, your die cutting first, and then you know, assembling your tree. And then from there, when you have everything kind of prepped, it's pretty easy to put together. And you can see that those gold sequin stars, they do reflect off the light really pretty. So there is our second card. And then for our final card, this is where we're going to use one of the tree shaker domes for this one. Now, clearly when I went to do this one, I really was not paying attention to what I was doing, and I kind of like jumped the gun on what I did, and I'll explain as we get to that part. So for my card base, I have basic white thick 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of crumb cake that's 5 1/4 by 4. And so that tree that we used on our first card, that's what is left over after I die cut it from this piece. Then I have a piece of old olive that measures 2 by 1. And then out of a scrap piece of basic white, I stamped my star in red, in real red ink, and then I die cut it. So I'll set that aside. My card base, let me go ahead and fold and burnish that. Okay, now before I go and I stamp my crumb cake, I'm going to take my cardstock and I'm going to line this up so that way it's where I want it to be on my card base. I'm going to bring in a pencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly trace my tree onto my card base. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I am going to stamp a greeting in this spot, and then of course this piece will sit on top of it, and the shaker dome will be fitted in this piece right here. Didn't want to do that. Okay, so there is our so we know exactly where to place our greeting. So let me get the stamp set. Now for the greeting inside the tree, I'm going to use From Our House to Yours. Now this card is cased off of the sample card for this bundle. If you go to when you go to the online store, well, I have the link for it down below. When you go to the website, this is going to be one of the cards that was a sample. As a matter of fact, this last card that we just did, this one's a case off of that as well. Now the difference is they did use a longer card base. They did not stamp the trees in Pool Party ink, but what they did was they stamped it with Versamark and then heat embossed it with white embossing powder. But I just kind of changed it up, made it a little bit more simpler, and then they did, but everything's basically the same. It's just kind of like that background. I elected to just stamp with the ink rather than with the heat embossing. And then that first card that we did, that one, just basically off of kind of like a memory of the color combination, and then it just all worked together. But this one is in the online store for this bundle. One thing I do want to check really, really quick, because at the beginning of this month, let me see here. At the beginning of December, I think it could have been like December 2nd, Stampin' Up! Had added a lot of stuff to the last chance list. So the one thing that you will see is like all of the, especially all of the red rubber, the clear, the cling stamps, those are being discontinued. Stampin' Up! Is kind of veering away from doing the red rubber stamps. It was because supplies were kind of getting a bit hard to get, so they decided that now all the stamps are going to be in photopolymer going forward. So this mini holiday, this mini holiday catalog, and I think it was the September, no, the November, hold on, what month we in? The September, October, wait a minute, hold on, November, September. The November, was it online exclusive items? That was the last, that's going to be the last, online exclusives that will have red rubber. So there's a lot of things right now that are in the last chance list. So, so right now, okay. So let me see. Because right now, I mean, the bundle itself is currently unavailable because the pine tree trimmings set of dies are currently unavailable. The stamp set is still available, but let me take a quick peek to see if it's actually coming back. Because usually when it says, hold on, where is, okay, hold on, why is this not, it's not giving me everything. Hold on a second. Let me refresh it. Okay. Let's go to our inventory status report and let's see what it says. Um, okay, here we go. Okay, so the pine tree trimming set of dies, they are supposed to be back in stock the week of December 15th. So what is that? Is that next week or the week? Think it may be the week, it's the week after. So the dyes will be back in stock. They're not gone for good. If you look in the online store and you look at the products and it says currently unavailable, that means that there is more stock coming in. If you just don't see it out there at all, then that means it's discontinued and it's gone for good. There are like the traditions of Christmas designers, the specialty designer series paper. That was out of stock for a while. It came back. Well, it's back out again, along with the Christmas tags and more mix and match paper. That's going to be back the same week. We did have a Black Friday sale, so our black and our basic white thick cardstock will be back that same week. Yeah, along with the very vanilla as well. So there are some things on low inventory. There are some Stampin' Blends that are not going to be back according to this till like January and February, because those were on sale during our Black Friday sale. So there's a couple of things that are on back order. And again, if you look in the store and you see something that says currently unavailable, that means it's coming back. So the dies will be coming back on this. All right, so I'm gonna take this greeting here from Our House to Yours. I want my Stampin' Pierce mat. For this one, I'm going to bring in some Mossy Meadow ink. Now, I do have the full-size ink pad, but for some reason, my Mossy Meadow, I don't know if it's a reaction between the ink and the foam pad. What happens is that it'll be inked up, and I mean it's inked up really well, but then there's some spots on the ink pad where it seems like it's dry. And so to get a more consistent, stamped image in this color, I just used the little Stampin' Spot. Now this little Stampin' Spot came from one of my paper pumpkin kits, but Stampin' Up does sell empty ink spots. These are little foam pads. They do sell a set of 5 of these uninked, and then you can use the little reinkers to ink it up if you don't want to get the full-sized pad. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of look at where I'm at here, and I'm going to stamp this right within that tree line. I could have came over a little bit this way. All right, and let me close that up. All right, well, actually I need this. So, okay, so this is what I had done when I done my sample, and I don't know, I was not thinking at all. First, let me do this. Now I can erase my line. Now my ink may be a little bit wet, so I learned from the sample card that I did don't erase over what you stamped because it did smear my ink a little bit. Okay, and let me just get all that eraser stuff off so now you don't see that line, and I know exactly my greeting is stamped right where I want it. Okay. Excuse me. So what I had done, and this wasn't bright, so I die cut the tree out of my crumb cake, but then what I went and did was, again, I removed this paper backing off of the top of my shaker dome, and I stuck it down. You don't want to do this yet because you'll be stamping on this crumb cake. So before that gets added, we need to stamp on here. So for this one, I'm going to bring in, there is a solid star, and then there's this little itty bitty tiny bow. So let me get my blocks here. And then I want my Real Red and Crumb Cake ink. And I am going to stamp my stars in Crumb Cake, and then my bows are going to be in Real Red. And I'm just going to randomly stamp them. Now the problem is when you have that dome in there, yeah, you can't exactly stamp down because the block is hitting that dome. And so I can't believe that I did that. So yeah, learn from my mistakes. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly stamp these around. I do want to leave some space because I'm going to be adding the little red bows as well. Okay. Oh, let's see. Can we add like one more? Yeah, we'll add one right there. Oh, let's add another one right there. Kind of fill it in a little bit. All right. So we're done with that. Now, let me put that aside. Let's bring in Real Red. And then we're going to just take our little bow and we're going to stamp this random again. Now down on the bottom here, a lot of this is going to be covered up by the greeting piece that I'm going to put down. Okay, I think that looks good. Sometimes adding too much makes it look too busy. Okay, so now that I have done that, now I can take this piece and I can add it to this piece here. So I took off the paper backing off the top, and then I'm going to line this up, and then I'm going to stick this down like so. And then you see that there's another paper backing on the back. So now the thing is, ultimately it'd be great to, you know, just put it down, put the little sequins in there and put this down. Unfortunately, you can't see then to line it up. And again, I could have stamped this over a little bit more that way, but you can still see the greeting inside of it. Okay, so now let me make sure this is burnished where it's laying down flat. I'm going to take my sequins. Now I don't want to go crazy on these because I still want to be able to see my greeting. So I'm going to add a little bit here, just a little bit more. Okay, one of the things that I also want to do, what do I want to use? Hold on one second. One second. Okay, sorry about that. I thought of this from when I did the sample card. So I have a dryer sheet. What I want to do with this, now when I did my sample card, I found that there was a little bit of static on the inside of this, and then my sequins were kind of sticking off on the side. So I'm going to use this to kind of just rub it in here a little bit, and it should work. But we're going to find out here in a second, right? Okay, so then I'm going to take my sequins and I'm going to just put them kind of like over my greeting, and then I want to kind of push this all together. Push it all together. Okay, and then on my piece of crumb cake, I do want to add some adhesive to the rest of this, so I'm going to add first when you're not straight down on this. It's not gonna give you a full strip. Okay, now I'm going to take off the paper backing. Okay, so we have the adhesive on there. Let's bring this in. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just kind of look and line this up with my card base. Like so. Okay, we'll stick that down. Press it down around the opening. Okay, and now we have our shaker card. There's always one that gets kind of stuck, but there you go. You got your little greeting behind that. Now for my star, I want to bring in one of my mini dimensionals. Put that back there. Okay, and then we'll put our star right on top. Okay, and then we're going to do a greeting piece. We get that backing up. Okay, so for my greeting piece, I'm going to bring in my old olive, and I'm going to bring in my black ink, and then I'm also going to bring in, what do I want? My greeting that says, "'Tis the season." Okay, get a black ink. And I'll ink this up. And I'm going to stamp this right in the middle. Like so. And then I'm going to bring in my snips. Now, I have a dedicated pair that's for ribbon. And then there's a pair that's kind of dedicated for paper. So the one for paper doesn't have anything on its handle. Okay, so I am going to trim this at an angle. So I'm going to start from down here, and I'm just going to cut just in one shot, almost like we're making a tree stand. So I'm going to do the same thing, kind of like on this other side, like so. So I'm not worried that it's, you know, perfectly angled at the same on both sides. All right, so now with this, we're going to put this on the base. So the thing is with this shaker dome in here, this does need to be stacked up a little bit. So I'm going to bring in my regular sized dimensionals. Now this has to be stacked up by 3 high. So that way it covers up and kind of lays for the most part flat over the bottom piece of that shaker dome. And again, as you put them on, and of course I took the paper backing off of that one. You do want to take off the paper backing as you stack them on top of each other. Okay. And then for down underneath this tree right here, we want to take our smaller ones and we're going to add them on either end. And again, we're going to stack these 3 high as well. Okay, and one more. So that is a lot of dimension on that one little piece, but in order for it to lay flat over the base of that see, and it still comes up just a tiny bit, but yeah, you do need to stack it up a little bit higher so then that way it kind of lays flat. Now one more thing that we're going to add to this, we're going to add a little more embellishment to this. So these are the faceted snowflakes. These are part of the pine snowflakes suite. It is another suite that is in the online exclusives that came out in September. I actually have that on my schedule. The honest truth is I don't know if it's an actual Friday Night Live or it's going to be as a Throwback Thursday, a modified Throwback Thursday. So I am going to be working with that suite. So in here you have, you got your clear, you have, I believe this is, it's either shaded spruce, but then at the same time it looks like pretty peacock, and then real red. And as you can see, there's 2 different sizes, and they're faceted snowflakes. So if you are mailing a card with these, you would want like a piece of cardboard or something, or a piece of cardstock to put on top, so then when the envelope goes through the machine, it doesn't tear out. Now this has this shaker dome on it, so this card is thicker. This is, if you're going to mail a card like this, then I don't suggest you put it in an envelope. a regular envelope anyway, you would want to put it like maybe in a bubble envelope, something of that nature, only because of how thick this is. So again, for these, there's two different sizes. There's a large and there's a small. And I'm going to add one of the larger ones and then two of the smaller ones. And then we can call this card done. So there we go. There is the third card. Cute little shaker card. Again, by using the fabric softener sheet on the inside of this dome, it kind of takes away some of that static. So your little sequins, you can see they still kind of stick a little bit, but a fun little interactive card. And of course, my little stars got stuck in there, but they're all contained and it still looks cute. So there is the third card. So let me bring in the other two that we did. So a first card was this simple layout with the color combination of Night of Navy, White, and Crumb Cake. And again, this tree is the die cut from this card. So we got that one. And then we did a little bit of a bright and cheery Christmas card using the Pool Party Lemon Lime Twist, Granny Apple Green, and Poppy Parade. And again, using those gold star sequins. And then here is our final card. This one again is, it's a case of what is, if you go to the product itself, you will see this sample card in there. So thank you so much for taking the time to stop by for my modified Throwback Thursday, where instead of using retired product, I am using current product that could be retiring um, pretty soon, actually. I think a lot of stuff goes to the online exclusives, and then I think basically from there, it's while supplies last. So once they're gone, they're gone. Now, like I mentioned, the set of dies right now, they are on back order. They say currently unavailable along with the bundle. If there's a part that's of a suite or a bundle, if that whole bundle or suite says currently unavailable, that's because there's some element within that suite that's on back order. So the bundle of the pine tree trimmings is not available because these are on back order. Again, if you see currently unavailable, that does mean it is coming back. If you don't see the product anymore in the online store, then that means it has sold out and it's discontinued and it's gone for good. So this is supposed to come back in the week of December 15th. So kind of keep an eye out for it if this is a bundle that you would like to get. So with that, again, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by for my late Throwback Thursday. I apologize. Like I said, it was a pretty busy week of work. And of course, I just couldn't, I didn't have the energy in me to get, cards created. Now, soon as I'm done with this, I am going to be putting together my projects for tonight's Friday night kinda live. So usually Friday nights, I do go live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is current product, and I'll create 3 projects like I have done here. Uh, Instead tonight, because I have a prior commitment at 7 p.m., I am going to create the projects and I am going to film it just like I'm filming this one, and then I'll schedule it to post out here on my channel at 7 p.m. So this one is going to be, well, when you see it clearly, it's going to be posted really soon. I've already taken my picture from my thumbnail and all that, so I just have to put everything out there and then make it public. If you like the projects that I have created, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. When you leave comments and you subscribe and you like the videos, what that does, it gets my videos out there to more people who enjoy doing paper crafting. It not only helps in growing my channel, but it also helps me in building my Stampin' Up! Business as well. Um, and I do have a couple of links. Again, there's links for all the products that I used for this video in the description. Also, there's a couple of links as well. I do a monthly newsletter. I had just sent out my December newsletter on the 2nd. In my newsletter, I do have a whole video schedule of everything that I use. So if you would like to see what it is that I'm using, I have that in there. There's other things that are going on. Stampin' Up! Has now is now doing what they have as product of the month. I do have a link for that in the description. Basically, when you place an order, now the prices that I give you, this is here in the US, of $75 or more, and that is after you have applied any discounts, coupons, Stampin' Rewards, and before adding the shipping and the tax. You get to choose, well, not choose, but you get to add the product of the month for $5. For this particular month, they have I think it's called True Blues Designer Series paper, 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. In the description, there is a link that'll take you right to it. Again, $75 or more before your after you apply your discounts and before adding shipping and tax, and it's only $5. Now there is a limit of just one of the product, so if you place an order say today and then and you decide to get the paper, if you place another order within the month of December, you cannot add it again. So it's a limit to one per account. Now, you do need to create a Stampin' Up! Account in order to also receive the paper as well. So I do have, like I said, is a link in there, and it will tell you all about what the product of the month is all about. So with that, everybody, thank you so much again, and I will see you in the next one. Everyone have a blessed day. Bye-bye.